talk about a few different themes, and hopefully I can impart some pearls that you can take back to your clinics and sell more NeoStrata and sell more services and engage with your patients even better. So, skincare buying trends. We get a lot of this from consumers. Sounds like science, stem cell this, stem cell that, and they're really confused. And reviews, ratings really do convince consumers to buy or not to buy. And I can't emphasize that enough because reviews and ratings have become the bone of contention for every practitioner I know on both continents. However, I can give you some pearls and tips on how to get around the review and ratings subject and how to actually generate really positive reviews for your clinic and the work that you do, and as well as NeoStrata has extremely good reviews online, which I've noticed. So that's an important selling point for your clinic as well. I'll talk a little bit about micro-influencers. You don't have to hire a Kardashian, and please don't, to help promote your clinic, but micro-influencers are someone who is your cheerleader in your community. And these are your real advocates, and you can not only encourage them to become advocates, but real patients who really love what you do and can show their results are authentic and transparent and relatable to other patients and can really grow a skincare clinic today. So let's talk about your clinic DNA. Who do you want to be? Superdrug? No. Selfridges? Better, but probably not, because you're offering something that Selfridges doesn't offer. And you certainly don't want to be Superdrug because the lowest common denominator is never the right positioning. If you build your clinic based on price, someone will always be willing to do something for less than you are. And that's, I think, a very dangerous proposition. So you want to figure out who do you want to be and how do you want to be perceived by the customers that you're really looking for to come into the clinic and to attract. So some tips on building your brand. First of all, I think education, I can't stress that enough, and I think NeoStrata really excels in this department. But consumers are really confused, and they need your expertise, because if they don't get it from you, who are professionals, they're going to end up at Superdrug and pull something off a shelf that probably isn't going to do them any good, sometimes may do them some harm. Then they're going to end up in your clinic because they've had a reaction to it, et cetera, et cetera. So the education component of being a skincare practitioner is a really important selling point. Having spent a lot of years working with plastic surgeons, I can tell you that plastic surgeons, for the most part, know very little about skin. Skin is just sort of the way they get in to do what they need to do under the skin. So there's an opportunity there for referrals from clinics that really don't do a lot of skincare as well. So educate them on skin fitness, which I like that phrase that I heard Lorna use yesterday, a NeoStrata phrase. Sun care, very important because there's mass confusion on that subject, especially this time of year. Environmental threats are really, we see a lot more in the consumer domain about environmental threats. People are starting to think about the idea of pollution is actually harming you and how to protect yourself about it. So if you stay up with sort of consumer trends, not only the medical trends, you're in a better position to educate your clients about what's on their mind, because they're reading it in beauty magazines. And frankly, today they're actually reading it online more than anything, because print is kind of signing a death knell and is on its way down. Generate name recall for NeoStrata as a premium skincare solution. That's a brand you want to associate your clinic with. So the more you can promote the fact that you carry NeoStrata and you're part of the NeoStrata family, I think that speaks very well for your clinic. Engaging customers. You want to create compelling reasons for them to connect with you in whatever form that takes. Now, today, that form is probably going to be online or digitally, and most of it is going to be where? Where do people reach you? Where do people find you today? Phone. They find you on their mobile phones because that's just the way we live. And that's going to become more compelling as a marketing tactic going forward. Outside of the US, certainly, even outside of Europe, I think in Asia and Latin America, using facilities like WeChat in Asia is huge. Multiple, I think, billions of people are using WeChat to communicate. WhatsApp has become massive. So there are a lot of different ways to connect with the consumer at various touch points, but they're all going to be digital. When I work with clinics, I do almost nothing in print. I try to persuade them to spend their money on digital everything for the clinic, except maybe some cards and things that go within the clinic, because people tend to lose paper today or write notes on it and throw it out. Whereas digitally, you can really track what kind of results you're getting, and you'll have a better sense of what your ROI is, return on investment, from anything you're producing for marketing materials. Also very important today in engaging with consumers is consumers have a very limited attention span. Trust me, I'm a consumer. I have zero attention span. So if I reach out to a brand and I don't get a response like really quickly, you're gonna forget about it. So be very responsive to patient queries, whether it's by phone or if they reach out on Facebook, they want a response on Facebook. They typically are gonna expect a response in the platform in which they reached out to you. So if they reach out on Facebook, don't call them. Reach out on Facebook back to them, etc. And that's really how patients are interacting with practitioners today. And at the end of the day, although patients can get everything they want online, you really want to drive them in the door to come into the clinic where you can have a very different experience. We'll talk about that a little bit. Next, driving consumers to purchase is, again, trying to get them in the door, sampling, and we'll talk about all of those promotional tactics. And encouraging replenishment, which is the key. Selling a product once isn't going to do the patient very much good, so you want to get them on a system, and you definitely want to have them keep coming back. And to do that, you need to remind them that you're here. Because if you are not visible and vigilant about staying top of mind with those consumers, they can very, very easily end up in Selfridges or a Superdrug or another clinic. So the skincare vertical is powerful because it adds a lot of value as a profit center in practices today. And to me, it's a mainstay. I don't know how you practice aesthetics without having a robust skincare facility within your practice, because I think it's a missed opportunity entirely. And it allows you to differentiate your clinic from every other clinic out there on the high street that does exactly the same things, because it's your twist and your ability to interact with the client on a different level. So everybody's doing toxins, everybody's doing fillers, everybody's got some variation of an energy-based device, from a laser to LED to everything else. But if you can differentiate your clinic on a service basis rather than just a treatment or a device or a machine, I think that you'll be able to grow your clinic and bring more people in the door. It also optimizes and accelerates patient outcomes, we all know that, and attracts a new customer base and expands your existing customer base, especially when someone you've done great work on talks to her friends or posts on Instagram about how great her skin looks. And there's no real stigma about talking about your skin, where there may be with some cosmetic procedures, although on Instagram there seems to be no stigma left. Maybe a little too little stigma for my taste. So know your customer. Who is your customer? Because your customer is different from her customer. So who are you really trying to attract? Age group, genders, and there's a big opportunity with men. We keep seeing in surveys from big companies like Allergan, et cetera, about how the male market is on the rise, but still, the male market in injectables is still extremely low. They say 15%, I'm not sure it is. It's kind of staggered around those numbers. It's not growing that substantially, but in skincare it is growing a lot. Look at how many new male brands are out there. So there's a big opportunity in catering to male patients. The other group that I think is really important are millennials, because millennials are very into skincare and they're starting very early, and maybe you start them by helping them cure their acne and they will love you forever. And they are very vocal and can be really important brand advocates for you. So I think there's a big opportunity with millennials. Skin types. You have to figure out who is coming into your clinic. I mean, this is the UK, one of the most multicultural countries I know. So you have to think outside of the box and really offer treatments that suit a range of skin types, if not all skin types. Geography, where are they coming from? There's no point in marketing globally if you have a local clinic in Kent and people are pretty much coming from that area. So think through where you're really going to devote your efforts. Price point, comfort zone. That's an important one. Think about that when you bring anything into the clinic. How much are my patients actually willing to pay for a treatment without it being a wish and have to go home and hide it from their husbands and think about whether this is really a stretch for me. So you want to get something that's really within their comfort zone, not discounted so you're not making money on it, or isn't a good quality product, but somewhere in the middle, and maybe some aspirational products. But you don't want to bring in a luxury brand in a clinic where your clients are pretty much more comfortable with a 100-pound range of a product. So think that through, otherwise you won't sell very much. Preferences, what do they like? What don't they like? Is it about packaging? Is it about efficacy? Are there do they like natural brands? I mean, that's not my thing, but I mean, there are a lot of clients out there who may want a natural brand. So even if you have NeoStrata as your main brand, you may want to bring in a small natural brand if that's a patient population you want to serve. And tolerance for treatments and downtime, that's always critical. So patients in London may have a higher tolerance for treatments and downtime, because in London you can walk around with some redness from a laser and nobody's really going to pay attention. But in a small town or a village where everybody knows your business, you might not want to do that. So that's another very individualized tactic when you think about how to grow your clinic and know your customer. Product selection, very important. Just reiterating that. And I'm a big believer in packages, and we're seeing a lot more of these trends, certainly in the States. One of the new models, which I think can really be worked in any clinic, is a subscription model, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But developing packages, and I'll give you some suggestions on how this is done. I spend a lot of time, I'm an avid reader, it's a little bit crazy. Like, all my clients get multiple emails from me, anything that's of interest to them, because I read everything. So I love to see what big retailers are doing, because you can really get a lot of clues from what retailers are doing, even if it seems like they're doing something completely different that wouldn't work in your clinic. It's a philosophy. It's a tactic that can be adjusted. And these are companies with big money and an army of people executing them. So we can learn a lot from the Sephoras of the world, or the Space NKs for that matter. Bundling at-home treatments and clinical treatments is a no-brainer. And in fact, I think you're doing a disservice to your patients if you don't do it that way. So my philosophy about skincare is the date. And I think I said this last year: diagnose, advise, trial, and educate. And those are really the steps to get someone on a program and stick with you. Because the goal is to stick with you. The goal is not to come in and buy a cream or a sunscreen. That's not enough. You want to build a relationship so that you are the go-to, and they don't read in Tatler that there's this fabulous new anti-aging crazy skincare cream in Harvey Nichols, and they want to go out and buy it. They're going to ask you first, what about this? And you're going to bring them in and tell them, no, it's not for you, and here's the reason why, and I have something better. So how do we attract more patients? What do patients need? They need an optimized regimen. They don't need a product, they need a regimen. And it may be from one brand, it may be from several brands, but it's got to be a regimen that makes sense for them. Nighttime, daytime, seasonal, etc. Compliance is always critical, and I think that's one of the big advantages of working with NeoStrata, because the products are really pleasant to use. So compliance is definitely high. Education, which you're in the best position to offer them, and a continued assessment. So you don't just bring them in and see them once. When they come in, every time you ask them about their skincare. What's going on with you? Is there something on your mind? Are you going through a lot of stress? Maybe we can help with that, or alleviate some of the stress that affects the skin as well. So it's a continual assessment that they can't get at Superdrug or Selfridges. What do they want? They want more than a cleanser and a moisturizer. They're not coming into your clinic just for a cleanser. They can buy a cleanser anywhere. To me, it's the platform that you're selling. It's the treatment, not the product. And I think we have to think of it in a broader sense. You're not just selling products, you're actually selling confidence. You're selling feeling good about yourself and looking in the mirror and putting makeup on because my skin looks great, or maybe not putting makeup on because you don't need as much. And they need brands that actually work and live up to the claims, because there is so much consumer dissatisfaction out there. Every new product that comes out, we hear everything is touted, oh, it's the best, it's the newest, it's the boldest, and a lot of these things really don't pass muster and disappear from the shelves eventually because they really didn't live up to their claims. So if you're honest with patients and tell them what will work and how it will work, I think you'll have a much better chance of having them stay and refer their friends. And that's really what we need to do, is just continue our referral process and get more people in the door. This is one of my favorite quotes from a brilliant woman who unfortunately recently passed away, Maya Angelou. And remember this, people may not remember exactly what you did or what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that's the point of your clinic, where the experience is really what matters. Let's be honest, they can buy a sunscreen online. I'm sure they can find a seller for NeoStrata online and buy it. They don't have to come into your clinic. You have to give them a reason to come into your clinic, and it is the whole experience. And the experience starts with the first time they hear the clinic name, the first time they look online and see your website. Is your website modern? I do multiple sessions just on digital marketing for this reason. Have you updated it? Does it look pretty? Does it have photographs? Does it speak well for your brand? If not, you absolutely should spend some money revisiting your website. And your website needs to be mobile responsive. They need to be able to use it and access the information they need to make a purchasing decision on their mobile devices. So think about that. That doesn't have to be a very expensive proposition either. But it's all about the experience. This is the spa I go to most often in Palm Beach, and the experience that I get there is always consistent. There's one esthetician I go to every single time. She's brilliant. She has a waiting list. My skin looks fabulous and feels amazing after I leave. There are little perks. I get a beautiful bag. It's comforting, it's warm, it's a place I always want to go. And that's what I hold up as the gold standard. Why don't I have facials when I go to resorts and when I go on holiday? Because I don't want a stranger touching my skin. I only want Uzlan. I'm good with Uzlan, I don't need anybody else. And think about that. That's the relationship that you build, that I'm not leaving Uzlan because she delivers what I want and my skin feels good because of it. And people can be very loyal to you if you're able to accomplish that. And it's little unexpected perks, the fact that someone comes in and offers me sparkling water. Little things that may seem obvious, but not every clinic does this. In fact, most of them, frankly, don't. Touch base calls, post-treatment. You just had a new treatment. And someone's nervous about it. Give them a call. How are you feeling? How's that peel doing for you? Any questions that you have? You know what? It takes a minute. If you've got their mobile phone, text them. People don't always do that, and that counts for something. Like, it shows that you really care about that patient. Go the extra mile. It will always pay off. 5-star service is critical, and today consumers are so demanding. I think millennials are the most demanding patients of all time. My daughter is 26, and I can tell you that they shop around like crazy. They compare notes, they read reviews, they write reviews, not always flattering reviews, and 5-star service is what they're expecting. And they're not only they're looking for it, they're demanding it. And they want to be treated like a star, and they want to be treated with a loyalty program. I'm a big believer in loyalty programs. I mean, think about it. Sephora in the States, I know you don't have it in the UK anymore, but I'm sure you all know what Sephora is. And Sephora in the States runs a VIB, very important beauty, which I think is brilliant, a VIB program a couple of times a year, 20% off anything in the store. When do I buy my makeup? Duh, 20% off is a big difference. 10% isn't. So think about offers that you may be giving to your clinic and what your patients are looking for. I think 20% is the sweet spot, I really do. 15 is okay, 10 is not important enough. So think about that when you're putting that together. And if there's a way for you to do, it doesn't have to be a card, an actual card, although that's easy to do. It can be a certificate, it can be something digitally, but that whole VIP program still works. Why do I have a Platinum Amex that I have to pay extra for? Because it looks really nice in my wallet and I feel like I'm part of a club. Amex has worked that on me. They have programmed me to feel that way. You can do the same in your own clinic. So the essentials of skincare selling, I'm actually a big stickler on the merchandising thing, because I've been in too many clinics over 25 years in this industry where you walk in and tell me you haven't been there. There are testers, they're dirty, they're dusty, they look unsanitary. Okay, or the packaging from the product that they have out is like, that was like from 3 batches ago, or there's some, yellow rancid ring around the top. Like, this is unacceptable. You're in a clinic, you're in the medical field, so someone needs to be paying attention to this. When I ran a practice, I would always have somebody laugh, if you will, but it was on Park Avenue. I would have somebody check twice a day that there was toilet paper in the ladies' restroom. Because the last thing you want is for the patient, with her Hermes bag to come up to oh, I'm sorry, there's no toilet paper in the restroom in front of, 10 other patients. It's awful. It's it's not what you want to do. So all these little details become so important because consumers they have a lot of discretion. And you don't want to sell products. Nobody likes this. If you look at reviews and ratings of clinics and doctors today, that's going to be very high on the list. I felt like they were selling me, they were pushing their products at me and not answering my questions or not listening. So be very careful about coming off like that. Of course you should be selling, but there's a way to sell without it seeming aggressive or heavy-handed. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't commission your salespeople or your estheticians, because I actually believe that you should, but they have to do it in a soft sell approach, not like you're being beaten over the head. And think of it as more as education than pure promotion. Here's an example. So a patient comes in, you really would like her to have this new eye cream that NeoStrata came out with, and you think it's really right for her. You ask her what she's using. She's not that happy with it. Have her bring in that eye cream, exchange it, upgrade her to the NeoStrata one, and give her a discount. You've now taken something that she's had, you've given her some value for it, but you've upgraded her to a better product that she's going to get a better response for. So there are lots of ways to do this that don't seem like you're banging her over the head and forcing her into making a decision, because that is not going to fly anymore. Okay, the right staff. Staff in a clinic is your most valuable asset, actually I think the hardest thing to find. One of the disconnects that I find in practices I go to all the time is that the lowest paid employee is the person who is the first point of contact with every patient. And as an industry, we need to fix that because it's a mistake. It will not be the case at a Ritz-Carlton. It will not be the case at the Wolseley or any upscale restaurant, because that person, that maitre d', that person that's seating you is critical for your first experience with that clinic or that business. So think about who is answering your phone and who is greeting your patients. And this is another reason why I never like to see clinics have the person at the front desk be doing all their social, because the patient doesn't know that, and she walks in and she sees your receptionist is on her phone fiddling around. She doesn't know that she's posting something on Facebook for you. She's going to assume that she's talking to her boyfriend about what she's going to do at 6 o'clock at night, not paying attention to the patient who's standing in front of her. The most important person at the front desk is the patient who just walked in. And you know how it is when you go into a restaurant and you have a reservation and the receptionist is either on the phone or doing something else, and you're standing there waiting until she even acknowledges you that you're there. That's not going to fly anymore. You really want to serve clients in the best way you possibly can by getting the best staff. What's the best staff? People pleasers. I've done lectures on this ad nauseum, having hired and having to let go so many people over the years. People pleasers. You can't teach people to be nice. If you don't like people, you're in the wrong business. Because our business is it's not about products, it's about people. And you've got to be relatable, and you've got to actually be interested in people enough to remember that, Mrs. Grant just had a grandchild, or, someone is, getting married and wants to look great for the wedding. Those are really important clues, and that personalization is something that they can't get at Superdrug and Selfridges. Commission bonus structure is a whole other topic for another day, but it's important to keep that in mind. In most clinics, there is some form of a commission or bonus structure for product sales as well as treatment sales. That may not work for you, but it's certainly something to think about. And I think it's really important when you bring in a line to a clinic that if the people in the practice who are actually doing the treatments, selling the product, and dealing with patients, they really have to buy into the product. If they don't like it, they can't sell it. And it's going to come across poorly. If you see clinics that have multiple brands and you ask an esthetician, they're like, what do you use? You know that that's what she's selling the most of. So make sure that the products that you have in your clinic are something that everybody really buys into and can be genuine and authentic about their experience with those products and, frankly, their recommendations. And keep in mind Warren Buffett's famous quote, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." It's not about price. It can't be about price. Price comes into the equation, but that cannot be the main thing on your list. Value is much more important than price. Social selling is really important today. How many of you are on any of these 4 platforms selling skincare today? Not a lot. Pinterest, I know, doesn't skew very highly outside of the US, but it's actually a very good platform for product sales. Take a look at it. It may not be ready in the UK, and I don't know that for a fact one way or the other, but Pinterest can actually be a very good door to sell your services, repetitive services, things like peels, laser hair removal, LED treatments, and skincare. It's done really well for a lot of med spas, certainly in the US market. Instagram is a no-brainer. Facebook is a no-brainer. Twitter, to me, I use Twitter as a conduit to other platforms. It is just too much controversy and too much of a hotbed of politics right now, and to use it for something more than that, but it does work for that. I would not spend money on ads. I would spend money on ads on Facebook and Instagram. But these are the best platforms in my experience, at least, unless someone has something they'd like to add. Any other platform that works really well for you? Tell the group. I think that's probably it. LinkedIn is B2B, it's really not for patients. Use popular skin hashtags, and if you need to know what the popular hashtags are, just go on Instagram and put them in. Skin goals is one I use a lot. I think you should create ownable hashtags, both for NeoStrata in your practice and your own practice names. I use like Ask Dr. B or something like that all the time. So they should be ownable, but then also you want to use generic hashtags so that people are actually searching for skin goals. And that's an easy one. Best skin ever, best day ever, things like that. Be careful with really generic ones that have millions and millions of uses, because no one will ever find you. They're not going to search for beauty as a hashtag. It's too vague. It needs to be more specific to what you do. Also follow what's trending to join the conversation, because that's a good way to interact with like-minded individuals on social platforms. Probably the best place to do that is Twitter. If you go to the left side of the platform, you'll see what's trending. Social sharing is absolutely the ultimate goal, and that's about user-generated content. That's the person who you sold, the new, what is the name of the product? Because I don't have it yet. Tri-Therapy Lifting Serum to, and writing about how fabulous that was on my skin and taking a picture of it. You can't pay for that. It's priceless. But instead of posting it on your platform, let them post it on their platform, and then you can regram it or share it on yours, because it's coming from them. It's one thing for you to tell people how great you are, but it's a whole different level when somebody else tells everyone how great you are. And that really needs to be the goal. It's not about chest pounding, it's about someone else talking for you. And encourage and incentivize patients for them to post on their own platforms about treatments, services, talk about you. All of that really works. There are lots of ways to do that we can talk about at a different time, but I would urge you to keep it in mind. I looked at NeoStrata on Instagram, and I was actually very impressed. There are tons of photographs from this meeting, which was really nice that it came up. So you guys are really active, and that's great. So micro-influencers. Micro-influencers can be the lady next door. It can be someone in the community. It can be the cheerleader who absolutely loves everything you do and is your greatest source of referrals. Micro meaning that they're local and they don't have a huge reach, so they're easier to work with. So we work with a lot of influencers and micro-influencers for brands. Influencers are really not fun. Not fun at all. And I've drafted way too many agreements that they don't live up to, yet they sign. And it's a challenge, and I would urge you, unless you're in London, you probably don't want to do it, or you're in another major city. But micro-influencers are a lot easier. And micro-influencers can be, that go-to person in the community that all her girlfriends go to her for advice, right? Everybody's got one, or many. That's your micro-influencer. Your really happy patients. Someone who has a reach. It's not only about a number of fans and followers. We have to sort of get away from some of those metrics. It's about the reach. I would rather someone has a smaller number of fans and followers, but they were real and genuine and actually connected to her, than millions that she bought and that are in Southeast Asia and are never coming into your clinic. And look at the geography of the fans and followers before you engage with these people. If they're not local and they're not going to come into your clinic, it's not worth it for you. It's a waste of your time. And these relationships really need to be managed because they can get a little out of control. So how to keep them coming back, moving on. Stay visible. Help your clients sort through the skincare jungle. And here's an example. So let's say the Daily Mail comes out with some ridiculous article about how, snail mucus is the hottest thing in skincare and you absolutely have to have it in your regimen. That's a great blog post waiting to happen, right? Because you're a skincare expert and you may or may not, probably not, agree with that, and here are the reasons why. So that allows you to put your twist on a popular trending theme so that people can go to you as an expert and you position yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about and has discretion. Staying top of mind is critical because maybe they're not ready to make a decision to have a peel or to buy a new skincare regimen. Maybe they want to use up what they have in their drawer because we all have a bathroom full of skincare as women, right? So you want to stay top of mind because when they are ready to change over their regimen, I've got to go back to that wonderful nurse who was so helpful to me at that great clinic on the high street. So you just want to stay visible so they remember you. And segment your customers as best you can. I know you're all busy and that's hard to do, but if you have a database of your patients, if you can segment them, meaning like, these people had a peel, these are male, these are female, these live within a 30-mile radius, the age group, all of those things, the more segmented your personal database for your clinic is, the more effective your marketing will be. And remember that you can't really own fans and followers. You need to convert them to your actual database. Because tomorrow Zuckerberg is going to come up with some other new crazy thing that we're all going to have to jump through hoops for to learn. And your fans and followers on all these platforms will change on a regular basis because they do sweeps, and if they haven't been active, they're off. So your numbers are always changing. So if you can convert your social media fans to actual database, meaning my personal preference would be email first because that's easier, and then we need to try to convert them by getting their mobile phones. Because the next frontier is text messaging for sure. And it's actually, I think it's probably bigger in Europe than it is in the States. But the privacy laws in the States are so stringent that you have to be very careful about platforms that you use. They need to be encrypted. We have something called HIPAA, which is the bane of every doctor's existence. Privacy rules really vary, but there have been a lot of problems with this. As you know, the GDPR is coming out in like a week, which I have gotten an email about every 30 seconds for the last month, and it's overwhelming. Replenishment. So you've sold products, now what? You want to encourage long-term continuum of care, bringing them back and offering them the ability to replenish the product. And maybe that means they're not able to get back into the clinic, then you ship it to them. Send reminders, just like you do or maybe you don't, but many practices will do like your dentist or your child's pediatrician. You're due for your 6-month checkup. Well, we should do the same thing because patients are used to that. They're used to being marketed to that way. You're due for your 6-month checkup, you need your new vaccine, or you need to come in for a skin check. Frankly, if you offer full body checks, that's a perfect way to bring them in. This May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So there are lots of ways that you can send these reminders in the form of an e-blast or preferably text messaging or Facebook Messenger, which is also, can be extremely useful. I believe Facebook Messenger is encrypted, but I never really trust anything Facebook says anymore. So, depending on the privacy regulations in your health authority, you want to check that out. Now, let's talk about a subscription model for a moment. So this is a big wave in the States. So a subscription model is something that I really believe that you can do internally within your clinic. And that's getting patients to look at what are we going to do over the next year? You're going to have, let's say you're going to have a toxin every 3 or 4 months, right? You're going to have, how many peels do you think that patient is going to need? Maybe 6 peels in a year. Maybe 6 retinol peels, I don't know, maybe 4. So you figure out what they're going to need within a year at baseline, right? And then you can get them on a subscription program where they can pay by the month, by the quarter, however you want to structure it. But this tactic has increased retention and replenishment and getting patients back in the door and on a regimen, which is really at the end of the day when you're selling skincare, that's really where you want to go, right? So think about ways that idea or that theme may fit into your individual clinics and practices, because we're going to see a lot more of this. In fact, I think that the big pharma companies are looking at this model, and they will be bringing it out, maybe not in Europe yet, but it is a way I think you can do it within your own clinic. And I think patients will appreciate that. We have women in the States, which I bet you have this here too, it really makes me laugh sometimes, but you could understand it. They don't want their husbands to know they're having things done, which in 2018 is hard for me to understand, being a New Yorker, but they still don't. And so they will literally go to the grocery store or the drugstore and they will buy $50 gift certificates. because that won't show up on the credit card as anything suspicious. Or from the grocery store, they'll buy gift certificates and they will pay for their toxins, fillers, peels, etc., with a wad of gift certificates. And every time I do laser workshops in like the Midwest in the US, I get stories like this and I think, wow, that's so smart. That's really clever, but it's funny in a way. It's like, this is the way people are paying for stuff today. So why don't we make it easier for them so they don't have to go to the drugstore and figure out a way to do it as a subscription model so that they know what they're having. You can always make changes along the way, but I think it's a really good concept. And auto pay for skincare replenishment like QVC does is not a bad idea. And that can work for you in a clinic because you want them on a specific regimen, and there may be, maybe you give them a small discount if they sign up for this in advance. Just a thought, may not work for everyone. Seminars and events. How many of you do patient seminars, events in your clinics now? I should see every hand. I think seminars and events are still a mainstay for aesthetic clinics. Having done many of them in New York, London, and many other places, I really think that these can be effective and patients get a lot out of them. And you don't have to have 50 people. You can have 10 and make it a big day. And I mean, there are clinics like the Med Spa that I go to in Palm Beach. They can do $6,000 at one event, sometimes $10,000. They set a goal. And everybody gets involved. And they can make really big numbers and sell a lot of skincare and have a lot of happy clients. So if you're not doing seminars and events on a regular basis, I would urge you to reconsider it. And it doesn't have to be at a large location. If your clinic does not make it possible to bring people in the door, then you may want to join forces with another like-minded business in the community. It could be a hair salon, it could be a plastic surgeon's office that doesn't do skincare, it could be a dentist, it could be an obstetrician, it could be a gynecologist. Think about a little outside of the box and who you can partner with in your community so that you can cross-promote and you can also consolidate resources. Very important, goodie bags. Well, who doesn't want to walk out of an event with a goodie bag of skincare, no less? So lots of things to do. Synergy of products and treatments, very important. I mean, NeoStrata, that's how my introduction to NeoStrata was, of course, the classic NeoStrata peels that is in every office I know. So it leaves you a lot of open opportunities. I'm going to go through these quickly, and Lorna can provide you with a copy of these slides if you wish, so you can, it's hard to take notes. So I put this down as service and service, service and product, product and product. So think about bundling and packages. And again, I'm happy to provide these slides for you so you don't have to take notes. Happy patients are the most important thing you can have in a clinic and the best source of continued repeat revenue. So whatever you do, you don't want patients leaving unhappy or dissatisfied, because today, there was a time in the UK they would tell no one. Then it became they would tell someone. Now it became they will tell everyone. So that's the difference. And the UK was much slower to the party here. I mean, in New York, if you had a mess in Manhattan, in my zip code, over a patient experience, they might tell a girlfriend over a chopped salad at the club. Now they go on Yelp. And they tell millions of people how awful it was and what a terrible experience it was. And it's a big danger because bad reviews can really kill a business. And if you're not being vigilant about your reviews and ratings online, you need to start immediately. Follow what people are saying about you, join the conversation, and figure out a way to generate more positive reviews. Merchandising, we talked about a little bit. How many of you use shelf talkers? Do you know what that means? Shelf talkers for skincare are critical. Take your cues from retailers and hair salons and Sephoras of the world. Shelf talkers, especially for a brand like Sephora, NeoStrata, because NeoStrata has so many awards and so many cult products. Shelf talkers are, little cards that you make up and you put on the shelf. So patients, when they walk in and they see something, oh, wow, they gravitate immediately to where the shelf talker is because you're explaining it. And it can be something as simple as, our esthetician's favorite product is, and you put that shelf talker right where their product is. I like open displays as long as they're clean and neat. I don't like open skincare bottles because you're in a sterile environment, but patients should be able to try and feel and experiment with it before they even come into a room and see you. Product promotion, again, I'll give you these slides. Everything you can think of goes into this slide. Coupons, vouchers, goodie bags, shopping cart on website if you want to sell directly, displays throughout clinic, all patient areas. Sampling program is, I know NeoStrata does have samples, really important. And get your own results. These are beautiful results and they sell skincare. Don't expect a patient to try to figure out what that peel is going to generate on her skin. Show her pictures of what peels can do. People have no imagination today. We don't really know. And you know, there's also kind of a stigma in certain circles about what a peel does, because it's that, remember that old scene from Sex and the City, where, you know, she became bright red, and people associate that with peels, which, I mean, you know, that was the 80s. That's not now. Your peels, you look pretty good after a peel now. So they need to be able to see that. They need to, I like peel diaries. I like patient diaries when they do them are really, really compelling. So you can see what you look like day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, like that. Those really tell a lot. And I'm going to finish with this quickly. Aim for greatness. Don't be predictable. Keep it interesting. Mix it up. Stand out. Be one of a kind. There are a lot of clinics out there. What is your DNA? Keep that in mind. Be proactive, shout it from the rooftops. Don't wait for people to find you if a car breaks down on the street where you're at. You need to be out there and promoting yourself so they know where to go. Be brave. Take some risks. You can always take some risks and scale it back if it doesn't work out for you, but it's better to be different than to be the same and wonder what happened. And key messages, don't expect NeoStrata or any of your vendors to do all the work for you. It's on you. Develop your own case studies. Don't just use NeoStrata's case studies, which are excellent, but you need your own. They want to see your results. That's really important. That's much more relatable to the individual client. Thank you for your attention.